Hi, everyone. My name's Mark. No, I'm just kidding. My name isn't Mark, but I could hear him talking smack about me in the other room. I'm Jesse Montano. You're going to be joined by Meghan Angley in just a moment. It's Gorilla Sports Off Ice Friday edition, Game 7 edition. Why not? Screw it. We still got 24 hours till Game 7, but it can be a Game 7 edition. Want to remind you guys about our great friends over at Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you. Yeah, you, the one watching this. Lower your interest rate and get a better monthly payment. Go to trustedamerican.com right now. See how much money they can help you start saving today. Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It's Friday. I had to teach Meghan that last night that it was Friday. I guess teach isn't the right word. Update Meghan that today was Friday. I didn't have to teach her what Friday was. She already knew. Jesse,
next we're doing numbers.
Yeah. This week was weekdays. Next week is numbers.
I'm already up to 10 on my own.
Colors, shapes. Yeah, she's up to 10 weekdays that she's figured out by herself. So
numbers, silly.
I know. Everyone knows there's only 8 days in the week. Jesse Montano, Meghan Angley, got Chloe and Mark back there behind the glass today, making all this happen. Meghan, how are you doing? Game 6 was last night. We got Game 7 tomorrow.
Yeah, I feel oddly good, calm. Okay. I think the nerves will really set in tomorrow morning when the reality of the day sets in. But I'm proud of what they accomplished in Game 6. I think there are a lot of valuable building blocks that have been part of the foundation throughout the whole of this series. So really, Game 6 didn't teach me anything new about the Avs. It just demonstrated where the strengths of this team definitely lie and why doing the right things repeatedly does reward them. So a lot of good feelings coming into today.
Would it be an Avalanche win if Meghan wasn't feeling pride? I don't think so.
I don't even think I got to that word because we haven't talked about Parker Kelly yet.
And that's my favorite part about it. Meghan said she was proud of them and didn't even realize it. That's the best part.
It's just so natural to me, you know?
I know, and I love it. Meghan sat down next to me in the press box yesterday. She goes, I might throw up. So the fact that you're feeling good today, I'm happy.
Jesse's leaving out context. Jesse was saying crazy things like we might not have to do any our evenings might be free from now on. And I was like, that sounds terrible. And I wish you never said that.
What I said was, having done this job for almost a decade now, which is crazy to me. I said, look, that's just like, I've just been broken of all my fandom. And so that's how I look at stuff last night. For games that are stressful situations, I look at it and I'm like, well, I'm the real winner here because either we get to Game 7, we get to keep doing this and they're playing still and all that, or I can go to bed before 1:45 a.m. And like I said, I'm the winner in both of those scenarios. I thought you were going to give a way crazier, he's leaving out context. Jesse punched me in the stomach or something. I was waiting for some crazy off the rails thing. I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to defend myself.
Really uncharacteristic of me, and I'm hurt by the notion.
Oh gosh. No, but it was a fun game last night, Meghan. We did talk about it. We gave our immediate reaction last night. You can find that right here on the Gorilla Sports YouTube channel or anywhere you get your podcasts. If you want our immediate breakdown of what we saw last night, and it is going to be a little bit more of a breakdown. There's a couple points that I want to hit on from today that are kind of things stemming from last night, but not necessarily breaking down what we saw last night. We're going to give some just kind of broad stroke thoughts of what we're expecting for tomorrow, because we will have our normal playoff pregame show tomorrow where we're going to get into our key players, keys to the game, things like that. We'll do all that tomorrow, but I want to just, there's some storylines with this one, Meghan. And I think our normal 30-minute show tomorrow, we won't have enough time to get into all those. So I want to make sure we unpack some of those more off the ice storylines that we're going to get into here today. We'll take a brief spin around what is happening in the league. There was potential for 4 Game 7s to be earned last night. The Colorado Avalanche were the only team to come away forcing a decisive Game 7. So we've got a lot to talk about in this one. And Meghan, I want to start with something that we Jared Bednar was asked about last night. I talked to Cale Makar about it when he was at the podium, and it's Gabe Landeskog. 2-point night for Gabe last night. Both assists, putting him at 4 points through his first 4 games in these playoffs, Megan. I guess before we get into the way he's impacted the games, and then we're going to talk a little bit about, I believe it was your question, him playing with Brock Nelson. I think everyone was cautiously optimistic about, could this guy come back and be a difference maker? 4 points in 4 games tells a fraction of the story of how good he has been through these first 4 games that he's played.
I'm only laughing because I was digging into some other numbers earlier today for players like Cale Makar, and just off the top, the 5v5 Corsi 4 percentage, Gabriel Landeskog has one of the best at 5v5. And so much of that is just his impact with his play away from the puck. He is such a puck hound, and he comes up with pucks in retrieval, stays on top of them, and it makes the whole of his line so much more responsible. And honestly, I even see it in the impact that he's had with Nelson and Nichushkin together. Nichushkin, not a player that you typically talk about needing that kind of influence, but it's just added a little bit of hunger and compete to that line. And the reason I giggled is I switched my tabs, and so I have the lines from the series so far and some of the different numbers and some of the best Corsi 4 percentage lines, like in the top, 7, all have Landeskog on them in some form or fashion. And it's not a coincidence. There's just something about who he is as a competitor that makes a line better and elevates his teammates. And we've seen that so far with Landeskog in this series. And then the production aspect has just been this cherry on top of the he returned after 3 years of playing hockey Sunday. And the production has been because of how he plays hockey. He puts himself in the right position, and he is still establishing himself as a net front presence. And that's sort of been a key to getting to Ottinger. Obviously, last night, a couple of weird bounces sort of decide that one, but the process of being intentional about playing through the middle of the ice and earning that ice, Gabriel Landeskog does that extremely well. And, the Nichushkin goal to open the scoring, the way that Landeskog not only pushes through the middle, through the neutral zone and applies pressure that way, kind of, baiting Jamie Benn to lock onto him, but then upon entry, he's also pushing that first D back because he's pushing the middle of the ice. And this allows some space to open up for Makar. And so that's Gabriel Landeskog's impact. He's going to assert himself in the offensive zone. He's tough to play against, even after missing some time.
The first Val goal or the rebound goal?
I am thinking of the first Val goal.
Because that one was, Gabe drives that one through the middle of the ice in with his speed, pushes people back, drops it off to Brock. And then, like you said, continues to drive that middle ice, which opens up that lane and pushes that.
It's Nichushkin. Sorry, no Makar.
Yeah.
But everything else I said was true.
100%. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, fuck, I'm not misremembering, right?
No, it's Nichushkin at the top of the circle.
But no, to your point about and we see that so much for players with the Avs driving the middle of the ice. And even if you're not, and I mean, Gabe does obviously factor in on that goal. He does pick up an assist, but him pushing guys back opens that lane for Brock to go east to west, moving it to Val. And then again, you get a fortuitous bounce, but it's because Gabe Landeskog is forcing that Dallas defenseman to drive back in towards Ottinger that even puts him in that position to end up with a puck going off his foot and into the net. And I'm trying to find it, and I cannot believe I'm having this hard of a time finding. I can't even find Filipovic's page right now. And I don't know what's going on. He will not come up in any searches because he had a really interesting tweet this morning about Gabe Landeskog and his impacts all over the place. And I literally, for the life of me, cannot get Dmitry Filipovic's Twitter page to pull up so I can read through all of
while
this.
You're looking for it, the other part of this too is because Landeskog pushed through the middle on entry for this play, he stays in the slot and gets tangled up with Lyubushkin. And so that's part of how Nichushkin is able to get kind of some of those angles. I think you could look at that and feel, oh, those are just some lucky bounces. But those bounces are earned because of Landeskog playing in the slot and managing his guy in Lyubushkin. And so it's a start to finish Gabriel Landeskog play in so many ways. And honestly, his commitment from start to finish too is what allows them to gain a successful entry and finish off that play, earning some lucky bounces created by intentionality.
Shout out Chloe. She just sent it to me.
Hell yeah, Chloe.
Gabe Landeskog's 4 games since returning. 4 points. Ice time has gone up every game. 316 in his first game. 437 in his second game. 1817 in his third game. Last night, 1936. He's got 51 minutes and 37 seconds of 5-on-5 time. The Avs in that 51 minutes, 37 seconds of 5-on-5 time for Gabe with him on the ice. Shots on goal are 39-15 in favor of the Avs. High danger chances are 14-6 in favor of the Avs. And the Avs are leading 5-2 in actual goals in that same time. And 75% of the expected goal share slanted towards the Avs when Gabe Landeskog is on the ice. It's not just that he's been able to come back in and be an effective leader and even the things that you're talking about right there, like, doing those, it's the Avs are in control when Gabe Landeskog is on the ice. And I think that's the part that I just don't know if I saw anywhere that was going to be what happened.
Yeah, you hear teammates and coach talk about his calming presence, and the way that he plays hockey doesn't feel calm, but it provides such stability. No wonder that they have such an advantage when he's on the ice. That would make me feel a lot calmer too.
Totally. And just his ability to calm the room. I think this is a perfect time for them to be getting him back, especially at this level of effectiveness. Like I said, I just don't think anybody in their wildest dreams foresaw Gabe Landeskog coming back and being this impactful.
Yeah, it's pretty miraculous, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Like, the loss of Ross Colton hurts the Avs, especially from the depth scoring perspective. But what Gabriel Landeskog has added has sort of quieted the absence of Ross Colton.
Mm-hmm.
And goodness, I don't know where they'd be at in this series if Landeskog didn't return.
Seriously, not only from like you got the morale boost. He's been one of the best players in the series.
Their top 6 was a mess. Okay. And so, similarly, now we have a top line that's performing a little bit more to expectation. And it's no coincidence that now that the top 6 is a little bit more complete with Landeskog as an option there on the second line, the top line is performing a little bit better. We saw one of Marty Nechas' best games so far in the series with plenty to build on, but also there were things that you saw shades of him doing the right things, but I liked how Jared Bednar talked about he wasn't making good decisions with the puck. I think that he really absorbed the message of needing to be harder to play against and took that to heart, but then it affected his execution. And so offensively, the way that he was creating, it was ineffective. His shot selection wasn't getting very dangerous. He was mismanaging the puck. Just leads to him being a little bit of a liability in that sense. And I thought those things started to connect for Marty Nechas last night. And I look at Nathan MacKinnon and Lehkonen and kind of how I expected that influence to occur sooner, but I think it really clicked in Game 6 for Marty Nechas. He was hungrier, more competitive, and not only making better decisions with the puck, but only 3 scoring chances against for his line. I think defensively, you saw the rewards for how he was applying his physicality. It was more effective alongside the way that Lehkonen battles for pucks. MacKinnon will battle for pucks, and they were working together. And so it was so much more responsible. And I think that's what allowed Nechas to feel a bit more comfortable in his game. And I think, there's still moments where the execution was just a little bit off, but it's starting to connect more for him. And so I was really pleased with the night that Marty Nechas had. And this was a long-winded way to say, I don't think Gabriel Landeskog plugging into the top 6, and that suddenly now you have a more effective top line is any coincidence.
Yep, 100%. Megan, I've talked to a couple players about this in the last, day or two. You and I have talked about it off camera. I think Cale Makar has gotten a little bit of a tough rap in this series undeservedly. He hasn't found the back of the net. He hasn't contributed in the way that the Avs have needed him to. At times, he hasn't fully looked like himself. maybe struggle with some of the puck touches and things like that. But I think Cale Makar has still been wildly effective in this series, especially, in certain instances. Like, I don't think it's been 6 games of him just looking terrible. And I just think that he's been effective. He's gotten his chances. He leads the series still in shot attempts. I think he's had a little bit of bad puck luck, and I think it's in his head a little bit. And Cale might be gripping the stick just a little bit.
I went back when I was looking into the numbers. It was with you in mind because you asked, can we track high danger chances for a player over the course of the series? And you certainly can. And Colorado has 5 players in the top 10 of these playoffs so far for high danger chances for at 5v5. Makar and Toews are tied for number 1 in the league in these playoffs at 5v5. And Nechas, MacKinnon, and Lehkonen are the others that are among the top 10. That's a lot of players represented by just one team that are not just creating chances but high danger ones. Because look, Makar has missed the net a lot too, but you don't register a high danger chance for missing the net.
Right.
And so he's just throwing everything but the kitchen sink at the Dallas Stars because it's clear that they have had a game plan designed to shut him down and try to take away time and space so that he is unable to walk the blue line and look for his options from the top of the ozone. And I think that the way that the Avs played last night, it was so much more effective in gaining the zone quickly that it allowed for Makar to operate from that place in the ozone and also drive to the middle, using his agility and his skating to play down the middle like that. And I think that's Cale Makar kind of breaking through some of the ways that Dallas has specifically tried to counter him, and he's been working through it all series. And so process-wise, he's been doing a lot of the right things. It just hasn't translated to the production the way that we'd like to see it. And, maybe unconsciously we're seeing too some of those high danger chances that Oettinger is just shutting him down. And we're feeling the frustration. It's sort of like when you remember all of the mean things people say about you and you kind of forget the positive things. I think we forget the positive things with Cale Makar when he is doing the right things if it doesn't immediately translate to a goal. And that's true of this series so far. I think the last 2 games in particular, he has made such big strides forward in kind of playing the Cale Makar way, despite what Dallas, they have a say in this, certainly. And I think Cale Makar is fighting his way through that and has made huge strides the last 2 games.
I'm going to play Devon Toews. It's a few minutes here, 4 or 5 minutes from Devon Toews. Today, he does talk about this a little bit as well, and then also just gives a little bit of insight into last night and the mindset heading into tomorrow. So this was just from what, Megan, about 2 hours ago, out at the airport as the Avs were boarding their flight to head to Dallas.
What is the difference of your mental preparation and mindset from the way it was in Game 1 going into Game 7 now?
I don't think there's any change. I think we've been just trying to go game by game and win as many as we can. And nobody thought it was going to be easy at any point. So they're a great team over there. It's hard to win these games. So we have a chance to go to their barn and win one and move on. So that's what we're looking forward to.
With that, Jared talked about how you guys really were facing with like a let's get through Game 6 mentality and then shift. At what point last night do you guys shift to start thinking about Game 7, or are you at the point where it's just, no, we're just going to go in there and play? Not much to think about.
Yeah, we're shifting to it now. I mean, it's the next game up, and we have an opportunity to do something special and write our story. And it's hard. It's hard to win games in this league and on a regular season basis, and now to play one of the best teams in the playoffs and try to beat them in 7 is a tough task, and we're up for it and excited for it.
What is the response in the third period after going down at the end of the second, having held the lead so much of that game, tell you about the resiliency of this group?
Yeah, we've been talking about it, just sticking with our game and knowing that it's going to be hard. It's hard to create scoring chances at times, and then when you do create scoring chances, it's hard to score. The goalies are great, and their goalies obviously playing really well. So it's just about sticking with our process of continuing to play our game and trusting that if we get enough looks, we're going to get enough to win the game.
I think 48 shots in each of the last 2 home games. How do you maintain that shot-first mentality in their barn?
Yeah, I mean, they get the matchup, so it's a little bit harder. But if we put enough pressure on them and, we create icings and we get our matchups that we want, then we can kind of turn the tide a little bit. But it's just that shot-first mentality and sticking with it and not getting, annoyed with the opportunities we're getting, or if we're not getting them, and if we're not scoring right away, we just got to keep shooting and putting pucks there. And I think that's creating a lot of the secondary rebounds and chances that we've been getting in the series, and creating, you know, those 5-6 shot shifts that can kind of generate a lot of momentum, and then eventually hopefully it leads to goals as well.
Pulling and then Jesse.
Talking about that difference between how you guys played at home and how you played on the road, how are you going to kind of go into this being a Game 7 with that, trying to channel that energy that you had at home, taking it there and using their energy in your favor?
Yeah, I think we relish the opportunity to go do something special in someone else's building. You know, ever since I've been here, we've been a really good road team in the playoffs especially as well. So I think we relish those opportunities and the challenge that comes with, you know, trying to quiet a fan base down that's energized and ready to go. So we got to use that and come out to a good start.
Feels like Cale has had a ton of good opportunities and a lot of good looks, and he just can't seem to get one by Jake. What have you seen from Cale in this series where, you know, he's doing a lot of good things but maybe can't get one to go in the way that we've normally come accustomed to?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's frustrated with it a little bit. It's the amount of good looks he's had and opportunities that have just missed, or their goalies made some really nice saves on him as well. And but that doesn't really bother me. I don't think it should bother him as well, as he's getting the opportunities. And, you know, if we can put him in those positions with the puck on his stick as often as we have been able to, I think we just want to continue to do that. And he's the best player in the world, in my opinion, for a reason. And you know, if he's able to get a few for us in the next game, that's huge. But just him getting into those opportunities, getting into that space with the puck, is something that we want to do, and a place we want him to be as well.
Last couple, go ahead, Megan.
A good breakout allows you to attack with speed, and this is something that Dallas has keyed in on in particular. How have you worked through that over the course of this series?
Yeah, we're just trying to slow them down. They're trying to do a lot of what we're trying to do, of playing fast, playing north, breaking out smoothly, and getting it to our forwards with speed. You know, our first goal, we're able to get our forward line, Cale and I break it out to our forward line that's in good positions with speed, with time and space, and they're able to make a play and score a goal. And they're doing the same thing with us, with Hintz and Rantanen, and trying to get them with time and space, with the puck on their stick with speed. And it's about us to make sure we're over top of them, you know, not giving them odd man rushes, and they've been dangerous on the rush, so we got to try to control that.
Last one from Corey.
We asked you about Mikko before the series, and you guys held him in check for a while, and now he's kind of gotten going. Has this series been what you expected from the beginning, like their first time really having to go up against a team like this?
Yeah, I mean, you try to hold their best players in check, and they're the best players in the world for a reason, and Mikko's up there with the best of them. So you expect them to break out and get their opportunities at times, and it's just on us to try to slow them down as a group of five on the ice. And last night wasn't the best job we've done against them, and then for them, they're the best players, and they're going to make plays and score goals. So they were able to get a few last night, and our job's to, you know, shut them down for Game 7.
All right, there we go. That was Devon Toews just this morning, Megan, talking Game 6, Game 7, how they, you know, Evan asked the question about, like, how do you guys carry the shot mentality forward? You know, almost 100 shots combined in the last 2 home games. And then I just made the comment to you, asked about Cale Makar, and he said, I think he's frustrated a little bit. The fact that Devon Toews is coming out and saying that probably tells us that, yeah, Cale is definitely voiced to everyone else, like, what do I have to do to get one to go here? But, you know, Megan, I think that empty netter maybe helps. You're not staring at a 0 in the goal column anymore. Doesn't matter how you got it. It's not a 0 anymore. That might just help Cale breathe a teeny bit easier.
And his pass to Nechas for the Nechas goal, honestly, that would give me all the confidence that I need to go forward. He should feel so proud of that. So
we need a proud counter on this show.
Don't even know. And see, that's me saying he should feel pride. I also feel pride.
Oh gosh. Just real quick, there's a comment here in the chat. Cale's right hand was taped up last night, has been taped up the whole series. Something is bothering him. I hate to break it to you folks, Cale Makar's right hand has been taped up since the beginning of the regular season. So if you're looking for something to be bothering him, It's not the tape on that right hand. He's had that, I believe, since game 1, maybe even preseason, but he's had that right hand taped up all year long. And it's to the point where he's not even like hiding. Like, guys will sometimes have stuff that's taped up and they'll ask to wait to talk to media till after they can, remove any extra tape, splints. They'll leave an extra piece of gear on. He isn't doing that. What were you going to say?
I was going to make a joke and I was like, that's not funny. So
well, no. All right.
Joke retracted.
All right. After, I want to hear what it was. I'll be the judge if it was funny or not. Last individual that I want to talk about, Megan, it was actually something that Jared talked about today. He was your key difference maker last night. It was Arrtturi Lehkonen. He does get the Avs' second goal of the game last night. I saw a tweet from our buddy Evan who said 99% of the time, Arrtturi Lehkonen just wants it more than everyone else on the ice. Jared Bednar said today, we talk so much to our players about trying to get to the middle of the ice, high danger areas, and Arrtturi never leaves. That last night, I thought was a game that that is the best that Arrtturi Lehkonen brings out in your team.
I was trying to remember the quote about like being born in the darkness. I was thinking of Lehkonen because of where he likes to play. He likes to play in the dangerous areas,
talking about
and
like
he thrives
the
there.
Bane quote from
Yes,
Dark Knight. Yeah.
yes, I couldn't remember it, so
Yeah.
I'm really killing it with the jokes
you
today.
merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. Yeah, molded
Arrtturi
by it.
Lehkonen,
Yes.
Yeah, he was born in the dark.
Yes.
But yeah, last night I talked about this in the post game. Wow, ineloquently.
What was that?
Ineloquently, but I wanted to talk about it more because he doesn't necessarily get rewarded beyond the goal, but he was one of the reasons why I felt the lucky bounces that the Avs got last night. Arrtturi Lehkonen was putting in the work to create these bounces all night, and so it just felt like it was a matter of time. They finally get rewarded for some of these chances. 8 high danger chances, 4 creates, 4 rebounds. I talked about the success of that line when I talked about Nechas and not allowing very many scoring chances against while they were on the ice, and that's Arrtturi Lehkonen in a nutshell. It's because he likes to play in the dangerous areas, and I think we should stop talking about him being born in the darkness.
Alyssa put it up there. It's a great. Now I just want to go home and watch Dark Knight Rises. It's a great movie. It's a great quote. It's a great quote to pull. If only you watched movies.
Yeah, see, that's what's the trouble here is I'm aware of the quote. I've seen the movie.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah,
it's a great movie.
Yeah,
great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Arrtturi Lehkonen, he really can be such a difference maker for this team when he's going and when he's not so snake bit. Like, what he's doing in this series isn't different from what he did for the last 2 months of the season. He's just gotten a little bit more puck luck now here in these last couple of games.
Yeah, he was among the top 5 in the top 10 in the league for the high danger chances, 4 at 5v5. So, we've talked about players maybe not showing up as much as we'd like in the series. Cale Makar has maybe been given a little bit of a tough time there. I think Lehkonen is also included in that conversation of guys who are doing a lot of the right things. It just hasn't fully translated, but not so different from Makar taking some steps forward. I think Lehkonen did as well last night.
Let's shift our focus to what happened after the game last night. Pete DeBoer got up on the podium and just said a couple really interesting, puzzling things, and this being the first of them.
I'm so disappointed by the bounces and some of the calls, shouldn't happen this time of year.
Which calls is it exactly that you
I'm not getting into that. Watch the game tape.
Megan, genuinely, we've talked a lot about officiating in this series and a lot about how the officiating has gone poorly both directions. You did a breakdown on Pucks and Prosecco of a Josh Manson call that was made in favor of the Avs, and you said, yeah, this probably shouldn't have been a call. He didn't actually get tripped up here. We've talked pretty candidly about calls that have gone in either team's direction favorably or not. I don't know what Pete DeBoer is talking about last night, saying it's such a shame. It shouldn't happen this time of year. I don't know what he's talking about.
Did you see the DM I just sent you?
No, let me pull it up though while you.
Okay. Because.
Okay, all right. So I saw this.
For what it's worth, I also didn't know what he was talking about.
Right.
And I am on hockey Twitter, so I get
Right,
a
right,
lot
right.
of Avalanche news, obviously. And so, after game 5, I saw a lot of the calls that Avalanche fans weren't happy about, and I had to dig a little deeper to find the Manson poll for the Dodonov tripping call. And so I typically, though, over these playoffs, I've seen other calls or non-calls that have happened in other games, so they'll show up on my feed, right? My feed was pretty quiet, though.
Mhm.
And so I was just genuinely confused where Pete DeBoer might have felt something was missed, or the way he phrases it too is like maybe something was called that shouldn't have been. There weren't many calls. That's why I
Right.
was so confused. And another instance where I can immediately think of a non-call of the too many men in the second
Right,
period.
that favored them.
And so
And then a waved off icing that immediately led to a goal for the Dallas Stars that I'm still not sure why it was waved off.
I don't understand it. So that's what I can think of off the top of my head. And I live with that. It's hard to officiate a game perfectly. I live with some of that. So I'm just genuinely not quite sure what he is actually upset about. However, the other theory that's been proposed, I will let you
Yep.
hit that one out of the ballpark. I should stop trying to use expressions on today's show.
I'm going to let you slam dunk that one out of the football park.
That one is all for you.
Well, so, and then this is, well, I guess I'll get to that in just a second. Megan, here's my theory on it. I don't think there were any calls that Pete DeBoer didn't like last night. I think he was fine with how the game was officiated. What we are seeing here is an age-old classic Pete DeBoer tactic. And I'm not saying this to be funny or clickbaity or whatever. No, we've literally seen it 2 separate times in Avalanche versus Pete DeBoer series, once in 2019 and then again in 2021 when he was coaching the San Jose Sharks and the Vegas Golden Knights. He publicly criticized the officiating in games, and there's real numbers to back this up. It had an immediate impact on the calls. In 2021, the Vegas Golden Knights took 11 penalties in games 1 and games 2, both of which the Avs won, including an overtime penalty where a stick was slashed out of Mikko Rantanen's hands, which led to a slashing penalty, which led to the Avs winning in overtime. Pete DeBoer went on to the podium after that game, and I have the quote pulled somewhere where he said, actually, let me just pull it up and read it to you directly because I just remembered where I had it. Quote, this is from Pete DeBoer back in 2021 as the head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights after the Avs win on a power play goal in game 2 in overtime. Just a soft call, but I can't even blame the refs. Pete DeBoer said, according to NHL.com's Rick Sadowski, rest in peace, Rick Sadowski, rest his soul, miss him so much around the rink. Quote, they're fighting through the embellishment of grabbing your face or falling down or dropping your stick every period. So, I can't even blame the referee on it. They fooled them on it. After those comments, 11 penalties in 2 games. After those comments in the 5 subsequent games, just 9 penalties for the Vegas Golden Knights. Similar thing happened in 2019 when he came out complaining against the penalties against the Avs. After he had successfully pulled it off in round 1, he was the head coach of the San Jose Sharks, coaching against the Vegas Golden Knights, and in game 6 came out and called the refereeing a travesty. What happens in the very next game, Megan? One of the most all-time controversial calls goes in Pete DeBoer's favor, a 5-minute major on a play that should, upon replay, have never even been a penalty, which leads to his team making a miraculous 3-goal comeback in the third period, going on to win the game. Pete DeBoer has a law degree. This is all very intentional. This is all very tactful. I don't think there was a single call Pete DeBoer is actually that upset with. He saw that the Avs came out, sent a message to the refs. It was a relatively evenly called game. So he's come out doing that, and it's in an attempt to get a favorable whistle tomorrow. Whether it works or not, we'll have to wait and see. But that comment from Pete DeBoer, I went back through last night, found 3 separate instances without even having to search very hard of Pete DeBoer doing this very publicly twice against the Avs in the playoffs. He knows it's a lethal power play. It can cost you. and he is making sure to get out ahead of it to let the refs know, hey, I'm watching your calls. And it's something we have seen Pete DeBoer do many times before, successfully.
Yes.
And we'll see if it works tomorrow.
We'll see. I think Pete DeBoer coach teams have also earned a little bit of reputation for embellishment.
Yeah.
That exists. Oh my gosh, sorry. I need to turn my phone on.
Popular
Do not
over here.
disturb. I have accepted like friend requests on Facebook, and now I'm getting inundated with weird like volume of friend requests, and strangers are calling me on Facebook Messenger, and I'm gonna need to figure out my privacy settings to stop that from happening. But anyways, Pete DeBoer coach teams, reputation a little bit for embellishment, and so I think that both of these exist as a strategy, and I don't love it. I thought that Game 6 was the most I've seen of both these teams playing hockey. It was the best demonstration. Obviously, the weird goals aside, right? I still think that was a testament to Ottinger playing out of his mind more than anything, because I think the way that the Avs were creating was so intentional that they deserved maybe a better fate. So I'm glad they get the bounces they do. They do happen to be a little bit weird, but the hockey of it all, that was the closest we've come to seeing it pretty uninterrupted this whole series. So that's my hope for Game 7, is that the integrity of Game 7 isn't hampered by this.
There's someone in our chat, a Dallas fan, obviously, who's just going in on the Makar flop, which is the clip that you sent me. Look, we talked in the last couple of shows that you can tell, and like, I'm not being funny, hyperbolic. You can tell there's a clear message in that Dallas room through this series, whether it be from the players, Jamie Benn, Mason Marchment, whatever. It's, hey, if you feel contact, go down. And it's worked. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. Like, it's been very effective in this series. If you feel contact, anything above your chest, reach for your face and go down. They've gotten several calls that way. I feel about the Cale Makar flop, if we'll be fair and call it that. I agree that he definitely sold that interference call a little bit, but I agree with it in the same way that I agree with Mason Marchment flopping on the Josh Manson interference call. Are both those calls interference regardless of how the player sells it? Yeah, they are. But for me, if I'm Cale Makar and I'm saying, hey, they are going down in a dramatic way anytime they feel contact, hey, guys in this room, we got to do the same. They're drawing calls, and Dallas's power play has had a serious impact on this series at key times specifically. And a lot of those calls are being drawn, the Sam Steele one, the Jamie Benn one, the Mason Marchment one. There's a lot of those calls that are coming at key times. So if I'm the Avs, I'm saying, hey, look, if they're doing it, you feel any type of contact you don't feel is right, go down. You're going to get the call. Dallas is doing it for 6 games, and they're getting the calls. So let's make sure we're doing the same. That's how I see that. If you even want to call that Cale Makar one a flop, which, sure, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Yeah,
I think my fear too is it was starting to escalate, and it was getting a little out of hand, honestly. And so I think things settled down in Game 6 compared to Game 5, but there was a lot that went uncalled, and Dallas is not afraid to dish it out. And so there were things that we talked about now at length in the postgame and Pucks and Prosecco, like, okay, you can't hook your arms around Jack Drury with 2 players and dump him on his face either, but that goes completely uncalled away from the play, and we live with it. So I think the other part of this is both teams have been heavy, physical, getting their hands dirty, and a lot has gone uncalled. I think we're returning to this idea of just letting them play hockey, and that's what it should be. But yeah, there has been a little bit of tit for tat with the selling of calls as well, because it was working earlier in the series, and I think honestly that also made its way to officiating, like, generally, because we saw our first embellishment call of these playoffs just a couple nights ago. And this has been something everyone's been crying out for because everyone's seeing it. So I don't think it's exclusive to these teams in this series. It just felt magnified.
Elliot Friedman this week on 32 Thoughts referred to it as a scourge on the league right now, the embellishment. And then there was one other thing that Pete DeBoer said that not only we found interesting, but Jared Bednar did as well. And we'll play those for
We've
you.
been in this situation before. No one gave us a chance to win this series, and here we are, and with one game at home to advance. So that's a great situation to be in.
Nobody gave the higher seed in this series a chance to win. What did Jared Bednar think of that?
Fight. How do you?
They finished third overall in the league.
They hadn't looked at the standings, but
Yeah.
I do just find that, look, and Jared Bednar goes on in that answer to talk about everybody's trying to give their team a message and something to grab onto, but come on, Pete. Nobody gave you a chance to win. Really? Game 7's in your building. I think the expectation was for you to win this series.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious trouble was losing Heiskanen and Robertson.
Sure.
And you look at the impact of Heiskanen as a playoff performer in the past, and yeah, that's a pretty significant loss. And so much of their offense, even from their top players, runs not only through Heiskanen, but also Robertson, a huge conduit for it. So I think that was where the underdog narrative was created.
Mhm.
And look, it kind of is insulting to their depth, though. You kind of have to pick which one, right? Are you going to throw your full backing and support behind the belief of the depth of this team then, in the absence of those two players? Or is this a two-player team? And obviously, Ottinger's played out of his mind, and they haven't gotten some of the best performances from Jamie Benn to start, right? Mikko Rantanen and Roope Hintz having the second period that they do, it really opened up this series. Game 7 is going to be fireworks as a result of this. But there are other star players maybe that haven't fully shown up in this series that I think made that narrative feel more true than it actually is. But the third in the division, 100-point team, they also kind of skidded into the off season or postseason because of how they rounded out the year. They're struggling just to get shots on net at the end of it all. And so I think maybe even mentally they felt that way for a bit, because even with a healthy Robertson, with Mikko Rantanen in the mix, the top six hadn't really clicked by the time that the season had ended. And so there was that lingering concern of, yikes, has enough time, passed for these guys to get comfortable playing with each other?
Yeah. I just thought that was really funny. And again, we've heard, why is his name escaping me? The Jets head coach last year. Not there anymore.
Bonus.
Thank you, Rick Bonus. I think he even gave that after game 5, or maybe it was even after game 1 when they won. No one gave us a chance in this series. It's why does everyone think that suddenly everyone just default picks the Avs? I guess I just don't. It's just funny to me that 2 years in a row, the Avs have had to go on the road to start the playoffs, and both coaches have taken the nobody picked us approach. And it's just I just don't get it.
Yeah, we live in this, pretty Avs-centric bubble, but it feels oftentimes like the Avs are left out of conversations.
Totally.
Especially this year because of how much turnover there was with the roster. They start 0-4. They have the goaltending struggles. They have to completely upend the goaltending in a matter of days. And they take a gamble on Mackenzie Blackwood, who's never even played in the playoffs before. And then you ship out one of your original core players in Mikko Rantanen, also a leader in the room, right? And now there's just so much change going into the playoffs that the Avs are tackling the same question of, is it too much change? Have they had enough time? Do you believe in Mackenzie Blackwood? That's a little different from do you believe in Jake Ottinger? But I don't know. I felt like the Avs were ruled out for a lot of that, especially with the uncertainty around Landeskog. It still felt like a pipe dream up until it happened that he would even actually make his return to hockey.
Let's talk about tomorrow. There's a lot of narratives that do surround this game tomorrow. Pete DeBoer is 8-0 in game 7. Could become the first coach in NHL history to go 9-0 in game 7s. This Avalanche core has never won a game 7. Nathan MacKinnon's 0-3 in game 7s. Jared Bednar has yet to win a game 7 as an NHL head coach. There's the narrative of, can Jared Bednar beat Pete DeBoer? Sean Keeler, our good friend over the Denver Post, also, let us know today that if the Avs lose tomorrow, they will officially claim the record of the longest game 7 losing streak in NHL history, right now currently held by the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Avs haven't won a game 7. You have to go back to the early 2000s. there's so much that goes into this one tomorrow. What do you expect in terms of not effort? What type of game do you think we're going to get out of the Avs tomorrow? Are there going to be nerves? You think they're playing fast and loose? Hey, we kept our season alive. Nothing left for us to lose. Let's go out there and win one more game.
So I like this idea that every game 7 is different. Like both DeBoer and Jared Bednar kind of said as much too. Like you can't really take a lot away from, DeBoer's side of it having won game 7s and Jared Bednar's side of it not having been able to break free. Every game 7 is different. The context of the series is different. The context of the team is different. And I think that's really true and helpful for me to even process how I feel about what to expect for tomorrow, because it does feel like a clean slate between both these teams.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Mikko Rantanen and Roope Hintz stepping up in this last game, but Cale Makar is taking strides forward and Arrtturi Lehkonen's taking strides. Val Nichushkin. Mackenzie Blackwood had a more human game, but I think that you look at the initial Roope Hintz power play goal, that's another unlucky bounce that we're not really talking about, that Charlie Coyle accidentally pushes that into the Avs zone net. Mackenzie Blackwood makes the initial pad save, right? So this is hockey. There's just going to be weird bounces in this sport. I think Mackenzie Blackwood, especially early in game 6, was really great for them. So I have expectation that I'm seeing it come together. Like when the Avs continually do XYZ, it rewards them. And so I think they're seeing that too. The proof of concept is in how they respond even in the third period after kind of a whirlwind of a second period, right? They could have let that mentally shake them a little bit, and they just continued to power through the rest of the game by relying on the tenets of hockey that have kind of been instilled in them since training camp, truthfully. And not everyone's been here since training camp. Fair.
The other narrative that could be around this game, if you want, is the Yoel Kiviranta. One of the last game set, or the last game 7 between these two teams. Yoel Kiviranta,
he's on our side now,
was the hero for the Dallas Stars. I believe this was your question, Megan, to Jared Bednar about a lot of what you're talking about. I just wanted to play this from today.
But there's a lot of narratives going around, before this game 7, you versus Pete, his record in game 7s, this core's record in game 7s. Do you guys think about any of that, use it as motivation, or just like you've told us, if any of that stuff is in your brain, that's not really?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, and you know me. Like I think, like every scenario is different. It's different teams. Hey, listen, I don't need added motivation to want to beat Dallas. I just don't. I don't like to lose. And like, so I'm like, I just look back at. I mean, they beat us once in the, it's every year is different, Like, I don't think our team, it's not about, what they've done in game 7, what we haven't done as an organization, me, myself as a coach, the players in there. It's about trying to advance and move on and get to where we want to go. And, I mean, there's really no need to add motivation to it in the playoffs.
All right. I had the wrong question clip lined up, but you follow that up with asking about what Pete DeBoer talked about. But I like, what he said there. This isn't about Pete's 8-0. We haven't won one. This is about winning the game tomorrow. And I think that's so the right mindset to have.
Yeah, because you don't want to provide too much material to stress over and find yourself ruminating and obsessing. I think that's been helpful for Mackenzie Blackwood not to get too caught up in the pressure of playing for the most meaningful hockey games of his life through his career to date. I think that's kind of a hard switch up that, he deserves some credit for, that he just switched into NHL playoff goalie mode, and he's playing, every other night or so against the same team. And I imagine there's some advantages to that, playing the same team, maybe trying to account for habits and things like that, but also some challenges when you're going up a Dallas team with such a good power play. You don't escape it at that point then too, especially with how much of this series has been dictated by special teams. So I do think it's important for them to be very present for the moment of game 7. I think they understand the stakes. Like Jared Bednar said, that he doesn't really need much motivation to want to beat Dallas. I think that's true of the players too. So the narratives, I think, are more for us than they are for anything else. I do wonder if a Nathan MacKinnon does have, especially as, a player wearing a letter on this team, a little bit of that wanting to help get his team through the hurdle of a Game 7 for the first time in his career.
Yeah.
I imagine there's some of that.
Totally. Megan, anything else? Again, we're going to have our pregame show tomorrow. Anything else on what we saw last night? What we're expecting tomorrow?
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out more broadly 2 things from the Avs that they did well in Game 6. And it's not something that I've learned newly about the Avs, but there was definitely concern about how Dallas was slowing Colorado down through the neutral zone, right? Pretty effectively, especially in Game 5. Well, on the whole, Colorado did much better to defend getting back their way, and so they allowed fewer odd man rushes. Obviously, the Granlund goal, the breakaway goal, even kind of the Mikko Rantanen goal, kind of a partial breakaway. So it wasn't totally absent from their game. They got beat with speed as well in some ways, but I think that where they utilized their speed to their advantage was in the offensive zone when they forced Dallas to defend and make hard decisions about who the threat on the ice is. You split the D and you apply pressure using speed to force them to make a decision quickly. And that's where you saw Dallas was kind of prone to making mistakes. And so that's where the rise of individual performances of players like Makar, Nichushkin, Lehkonen, Brock Nelson is so important, because now you have several threats on the ice at once. And so the speed I'm talking about is the speed, honestly, on exit, right? It's getting up through the neutral zone and then on entry, and trying for a couple different ways, because I think that they relied on dumping the puck and retrieving it more in Game 5. And in Game 6, I think the Landeskog entry that we've alluded to on the Nichushkin goal is a textbook example of another way that they can game the zone that's a little bit more effective, and it requires a good route, but also speed. And the other thing was the way that they drove to the net front. And even though a couple of the bounces are weird, there's no denying that that's the formula for their success in putting pucks on Ottinger. It's not just driving to the net, but driving to the middle ice, honestly, inside home plate. I think how they're able to get inside ice too is all of it goes back to speed at the end of the day. Like Devon Toews talked about this, and it's no coincidence that the Avs were able to allow some fewer odd man rushes against and create more of their own in this game. And that just gives their players like Cale Makar more time and space to do Cale Makar things. So I think there's a lot of potential for the Avs going into Game 7 to start the game with a lot of intensity, because that's how they dictate how the game gets played. I like that Devon Toews also said that Dallas is trying to do the same things we are. And so it's not that Dallas has a better game plan and forces the Avs to play Dallas's game. It's kind of it's exactly what DeBoer said. It's who gets to their game the quickest and stays there the longest. And so the Avs still have every path to dictating the way that Game 7 gets played. And it all depends on how they start, but also just sticking to these things that reward them. They don't have to abandon using their speed as a strength.
Yeah. My last point on this, and I actually talked about this on the phone last night with someone after the game. What we got here in the chat: to win in 2022, the Avs had to get through the second round ghosts. Now it's time to get over Game 7s. I was telling someone, I said, look, these are moments within a playoff run that can push you where you want to go. Twice in this series, the Avs had their backs against the wall and have found a way to fight their way out. Their season was on the line last night, and they let the game start to get away from them. And they found a way to scratch and claw and get back in and extend their series for another day. This is a moment where if you can find a way to win tomorrow, and I agree with you, Megan, I think a lot of those narratives, at least publicly, are more for us. But for everything Nathan MacKinnon's accomplished, he knows he's never won a Game 7. And he knows that that's something that has stood in the way of him having more rings on his finger, potentially. And I think in this season, you could absolutely make that argument if they lose tomorrow. Inability to win a Game 7 may have kept another banner from being hung. Again, they know that they've lost to Pete DeBoer 3 times. They know that the Dallas Stars have eliminated them the last 2 times they've met in the playoffs. there are some real demons that you can slay here. And these are the types of moments and the types of wins that can propel teams through subsequent rounds and to championships. And you can look back on those moments and saying, I think of Darren Helm's goal in 2022. That was the moment where he scored and you said, well, you can't lose now. You can't go through that and then not win at all. And I think this could be one of those moments for this team tomorrow. And I think having Gabe Landeskog back in that room, you've never had a better time for it.
I think Gabriel Landeskog coming back is the moment. Like, well, we can't not win now. Gabriel Landeskog did the most odds-defying thing possible. And I agree with that sentiment. I think that this can propel them further because honestly, their path to the cup was going to lead through Dallas in some way, right? Like, it's weird that it's happening in the first round, but this had the feel of a Western Conference final for a round one series. It's kind of ridiculous, the talent on
Pierre
either
LeBrun
side.
Tweeted out saying that he saw one of the most entertaining periods of hockey that he's ever watched. And Pierre LeBrun's been covering playoff hockey professionally for 30 years. These are two really good teams going at it, Megan.
I love the shout out to Darren Helm in the chat and from you a second ago, because I said, I want my special little guy goal. And I haven't gotten it yet this series. I mean, I guess to be fair, like, the Jury to Coyle goal in game one was fun.
was leading this series in
Logan
points at
O'Connor
one
got
point.
a shorthanded goal. You know, it's not enough. I'm greedy. I want more special little guy goals because you really rally around those storylines when you reminisce their path. I mean, I don't want to get carried away, right? But gosh, it would be super fun for a special little guy.
Let's just whip around the league really fast here, Megan. There were 4 games that were being played last night. All 4 of them had the potential to lead to a game 7. The Avs are the only ones that survive. Edmonton knocks off LA in what to me was the most surprising result that we've gotten so far in the first round. I thought the way that LA was built this year, the problems with Edmonton's goaltending, that this was the year that they finally get over that hump. But no, Megan, it's Edmonton beating LA for the 4th year in a row. Were you as surprised by this one as I was?
Yeah, I'm bummed. I thought Darcy Kemper really could take them a bit further, and I have more belief in the construction of LA. Like, I don't know that LA would have the firepower to advance, all the way to a Stanley Cup final and win. But I thought the defensive mindset of the group and the improved goaltending would be able to expose the vulnerability in goaltending for Edmonton, because we've seen that be true in this series. So it was LA's to lose. They do lose it. So, Edmonton still has those weapons at the top of the lineup that you can't take for granted either. So I'll be curious to see how the goaltending holds up series by series. That can vary too. So we'll see what that looks like for them moving forward. A little bummed for LA though. I was kind of pulling for them.
Yeah, that's tough to lose to the same team 4 years in a row in the first round. So I'm with you. It would have been nice to see them get over that hump. The other Western Conference matchup that was maybe closer than people expected going in was Vegas, Minnesota. Minnesota even leading this series at one point, 2-1. Vegas does win 3 straight games, and they are able to close it out last night. Shout out to Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Boldy. Like, they made it a more entertaining series than I think a lot of people thought it would be. And good for Marc-Andre Fleury. Gets to play his last career game in T-Mobile Arena. The house he built.
Yeah, what an incredible career for Marc-Andre Fleury. And Minnesota was a team that I think started the year on a path that felt unsustainable. And so a lot of people doubted, like, oh, there's no way they can keep up with this. Then they were met with so many injuries. And so we never got to fully see what Minnesota was capable of. And I believe that there was more truth to their early season success. And so this is a team to watch in the coming years, I think. I think that Vegas is still the perennial playoff contender and how they're built, their depth. And so I think the experience of that group, the maturity of that group is ultimately what helps them to advance. But I'm excited that Minnesota I'm very proud. Just had to throw one more in before the end of the show. I'm very proud of the foot that they put forward. I think too, they're in a good place to just continue to get better because they have a lot of youth to build around.
Here's my criticism. Why did you even pull Zeev Buium in at this point? Like just the way they used him was like
It
that
was
felt like a
weird.
miss.
It
That
was
felt like a
weird.
miss.
There were opportunities to get him in regular season games when
Yeah.
the stakes were a little bit lower. And so I just think that he was not put in a situation to succeed. I also think he's a really mentally tough player. Like, he's going to be fine. It's not going to hurt the trajectory of his growth in this league. It just didn't put him in an environment to thrive. And so I think next season will be a big one for Ziv Buyam. And I hope people aren't writing him off based on the weird usage in the postseason.
I'm definitely not writing him off, but there were a lot of comparisons to Cale Makar when he was coming out of school. And I do think that this just underscores, we even talked about it. Like, I think Ziv Buyam is going to be very good in this league, but don't cut short what Cale Makar was able to jump in and do immediately. And I think this just underscores, like, Ziv Buyam is going to be a very good player in the NHL for a long time. But even he had an adjustment period in a way that Cale Makar just didn't.
There just really aren't other Cale Makars.
Right. And that's really the only point of that. That's not even we talked about it, and we even used the like Bedard to McDavid comparison, where it's like, you might be selling short Connor McDavid in that comparison of just like how special he is. Connor Bedard's great. Connor McDavid's in a different level. And that's the same thing for me for Cale Makar. And then the one last night that I was saying in the press box, I ultimately wanted to see the Maple Leafs win the series. I got a good buddy who's from Toronto, and I know he, has suffered through that part of the fan base for his entire life. They're a team that I think, it'd be fun to see them go on something of a run here. But I wouldn't have minded seeing them sweat it out for one more game. 7, the Ottawa Senators made it interesting. They went down 3-0 in the series, won 2 straight games, and had the game tied with under 7 minutes to go last night, Megan. Max Pacioretty. We talked a lot about Gabe Landeskog getting back this year, and Pacioretty hasn't gone through the same thing, but he's gone through a lot the last couple of years. Good to see him get that one. That's a nice moment for him.
Yeah, I actually had Toronto's the word. I think something's happened terrible here. I had Toronto advancing, honestly, more swiftly. I think I had that as a sweep to be a little bit edgy. So Ottawa putting up the fight that they did was impressive. And honestly, that's because it even was 3-2. It's like, then make it 7. I don't know. Like the fact that Toronto didn't get this done in 4. Well, then fine. You've earned your game 7. Make them sweat, Ottawa. But
completely agree.
I had Toronto coming out of the first round, no matter what. So
I completely agree with that, where it's like, well, you already made it 6. We might as well get one more out of this, and you can all make it interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then last one, Megan, we do have one more potential for a game 7, and it's tonight. The St. Louis Blues fighting for their lives on home ice against the Winnipeg Jets. I'll wait to talk more about Connor Hellebuyck. But this is, I'll wait. What do you think tonight? St. Louis, do they push it to 7, take it back to Winnipeg?
Yes. Here, I think they're getting Ehlers back sooner than expected, but the absence of Scheifele is a huge blow. And obviously the shakiness of goaltending with Hellebuyck not playing to their expectation has made this a really interesting series. I think the Jets are in a little bit of trouble. I think they can prevail, but I think they're in a little bit of trouble, and injury has not helped them.
Connor Hellebuyck has not finished a game in St. Louis so far in this series. He's been pulled both games that were played at Enterprise Center. All eyes on him tonight, I think. Megan, got anything else before we get out of here for today?
Do you see the injury list from Tampa?
Yes, Victor Hedman, broken leg.
That was kind of bananas. I wanted that one to go 7. I think officiating had some small role in the overall outcome, but also I had Florida coming out of it no matter what because of how strong of a team they are. But wanted to see a little more from Tampa. It adds context to see just how much they were dealing with. Holy cow.
Mm-hmm. Florida, Toronto. I don't know if Toronto can beat Brad Marchand. We'll see. That should be a fun series.
That's just funny player to pluck out of Florida. Yeah.
Well, the Boston tie. Like he was on. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. She's Meghan Angley. I'm Jesse Montano. It's Grill Sports Off Ice. We'll be back at it tomorrow, guys. We will have a pregame show for you before the game. We're going to have all the great postgame content, including a postgame show. We're getting a result on this series no matter what, Megan. I am so beyond over watching hockey games at American Airlines Center. The camera angles are terrible if you're watching on TV. The angles from the press box aren't much better, just the way that things are laid out. I'm ready to be done watching games that are being played in that building. We've seen too many of them over the last season. So I'm ready for it to be done. And it will be done either way tomorrow.
It will be done
either way. She's Megan. I'm Jesse. Got Chloe behind the glass today. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We'll be back at it with all kinds of great content tomorrow. Make sure you guys are checking out the pressers from this afternoon at the airport before the team heads to Dallas. More content coming your way tomorrow. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye.